Today is Thursday, the 23rd of April, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. And the whole week we were talking about the advisory board operating system, and today is the turn for transformation and reinvention, particularly from the lenses of assets, performance today, particularly strategy and brand. And let me show you something in the model because we're going to focus in this area. This is a full operating advisory system. Now, we are going to focus in the far left today, which is the other way around. There you are. So it's about the edge, the innovation, the transformation, the reinvention, and particularly from the lenses of going international, when you're going to other continents, when you're going to cross borders, etc., right? So let's focus on that area, and I give you some ideas in terms of observations from many years doing international business, and how important is this part of the performances, the strategies, and the brand. And you will say, but we are going international. Yes, and we are speaking the whole week about this because every portion of this model have to be taken into account when you're going international. Many times you do it by instinct, you do it by having a piece of paper or an advisory team that's going to tell you what to do when and what's next. Also, you have to have that inside your organization as part of your ethos, right? So you cannot go international and say, yeah, we go international because it makes sense. Yes, it makes sense. Now you have to put the right processes, system, and particularly people in place to do that correctly, and not only correctly, at the desired outcomes, so the business outcomes, right? Because sometimes it's very nice to go international, it's very exciting, you go through all the hurdles, but then when you have to wind down the whole operation because it didn't work, you have to do the same things, but it's a new hurdles, new problems, new issues, because actually closing down a company is not that easy as people think, particularly if you are in another country with another language. So for an internationalization business, this is where many expansion stories come unstuck with the things I'm going to share today, right? So it's not because of the demand is absent that you go international. It's because the company gets messier as it gets bigger. This is the things that you have to consider. And the risk I like to address today, this is the strategic drift, right? When you have the right intent, all the things in place, but the strategic is drifting into something else. So because you have too many customer types, you have too many routes to market, too many local variations, exceptions, and one thing that many times is not considered, but actually is very dangerous, I don't know if it's the right word, but it's very, very risky, is the dependency on local individuals, right? Because it's good to bring your people in, but actually be careful because at the same time can be a counter effect. So you have to have local individuals, talents, people in your international expansion, but at the same time you cannot be over dependent on them. So you have to make sure that you have the same principles you apply in your organization is applied in other countries. And that is where I come in as a board advisor. So I put together rotating international advisory boards around the milestones in front of your company. So you're not left alone. You have the visibility without being involved into it. So the organization or your company gets the specialist capability it needs in a fraction of the time that makes or takes to hire one executive without the being consulting overhead, without the talent locking, and with the membership swap, the members of the advisory board every 6 months as the project evolves. So in terms of talent, this is something I want to highlight today. We say, what have to do with international expansion? You have many things to consider, not talent. At the end, everything is down to people, right? So consider this because we are talking about in the model, I'm sharing the model, in terms of performances, the strategies and the brand. We are pretty much today going to focus a bit more into performance strategy than branding, though performance, because actually your teams are the ones that actually have to perform, and this is very important. So let's look at some statistics and some surveys that actually start to give us a better insight of what's going on in the organizations. So one of the first problems that you face is the pace of change is not slowing down. And the thing is, actually, you say, well, what do you mean with that? We are a manufacturing company. Yes, it's true. But the Office for National Statistics says that 26% of UK businesses were using at least one AI technology in the late March 26, which is 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. But is by 25 and the same period was only 18% of the company. So you see, technology is going into a place where you say how you adapt that technology, because once you adapt, for example, an agentic AI in the UK, how you apply exactly the same as agentic AI in the US, for example, or in Canada or Australia, when the laws are different, the culture is different, the people are different, etc., etc. So then you start to see the actually evolution of, when you go international, all these things start to have a consideration and a place. And the second problem is that management quality decides whether changes become an edge or a waste, right? And when I say management quality is when you have your non-executive directors. Yes, we have now to be careful, because now we are measured in effectiveness. That's why I'm calling, and actually the Office for National Statistics also have a survey about management quality. And also this quality allows the company to have an edge, or pretty much it is literally a waste. So the National Statistics Office found that firms with stronger management practices are much more likely to adopt advanced technology successfully. And we discussed this last week, by the way. When you have the management quality and in the higher end of the efficiency, expertise, implementation, adoption, etc., technologies become more useful and they return the investment several folds compared to management teams that actually their quality, their expertise, their capacities are not as good as the other guys, and they adopt technology. That's the same ratio, but probably less, though the results are not good, because actually it's about the management quality at the end. So let's see, you see how you see performance and strategy start to get very, very close together now, because actually it's about the people. It's always about the people. And this is not to point fingers at people that are not doing their job, etc., because nobody wants to get up in the morning and fail on purpose. But the thing is, sometimes that management quality have nothing to do with individual. It's because they are too much into the business. They're too close to the things, and that happens to everybody. When you're too close to the things that you do, sometimes you start to lose sight of the things that are going around you or in the market. But that's it's natural. It's not something actually you have to blame anybody or say, oh, you're not qualified, or you're not expert enough, or you don't have experience enough. Have nothing to do with that. It's about the capacity of the awareness of what's going on. So the problem is not only the technology, is whether the business can absorb the change without losing clarity of what's going on around it. And the third thing I would like to highlight is that leadership capacity is already under pressure, right? Not only for the things I just mentioned, is that PwC also says that 33% of UK CEOs question whether they have the right leadership around them, right? Back again to the people. And the same proportion says bureaucracy and internal politics may be undermining agility. So they are not fast enough. And KPMG have a similar survey about AI and the teams around investing in these people and technology. So what I'm trying to say here, I'm sharing with you, is that the boards are trying to move faster, boards, executive teams, and founders, while many teams still aren't fully built for the pace of change, right? So what is the problem here in overall? So in terms of performance and strategy, when you go to innovate, when you're going to go international, when you are looking for that edge, sometimes it's not looking outwards what is going on, but you have to look inwards. What is your team and how they are performing, and if they need an advisory board on helping them to see the things that they cannot see because they are too close. It's not about the capacity; it's about the distance, the breathing space, if you may. Right. So, in other words, imagine international reinvention is like stretching a piece of fabric across a wider frame, right? So if the weave is weak, so what will happen? It's going to tear. At one point, the things are going to tear, right? So if you put this in a frame that actually is a big, a wider frame, but you have a thicker, more better wave fabric, that is not going to tear. It's going to stretch, it's going to mold, it's going to adapt, and going to stick with it. So the board has to ask perhaps a better question. And when I say board, it's also your executive team and yourself as a founder. The question is, what exactly mean to stay coherent as the business scales, right? So you want to make sure that the things are working all together. Now, it's not that what kind of things you can see from the outside in. And as advisor, I would suggest the following things. Number one is the IP monetization test. And you will say, why IP? Well, what exactly are we monetizing internationally? It's just labor, founder reputation, a local relationship, or transferable assets such as a process, methods, brands, data, commercial structure, or the operating logic. If it's not transferable, the expansion gets expensive and very fast. So when we talk about international expansion, you say, well, this is going to make us very strong, going to show our leadership, and we're going to go into new markets, etc. So what exactly are you doing, right? So these questions are very valuable because then you start to realize if the international expansion makes sense or it's just an ego trap, right? Now, the second thing I would consider is use a succession planning and leadership depth test. And what that means is who owns what, who can make decision, how are issues escalated, who or how is quality maintained, and who is responsible for that. How is performance compared across borders? Yeah, if the business cannot answer those questions clearly, probably the founder is still acting as an operating system. So they are in the business still, but they're not looking into these things actually on the business overall. And when you are going international, you really have to go into the bigger picture all the time. So the third thing to consider is use the going global test properly. So going global is not the reward for domestic success, and that is a big mistake for many companies. It is the structure expression of the first two tests, the RIP monetization and the the leadership depth test. So who is owner, who is accountable for what and where and when. If the structure if your structure is an expression of these two things, of the first two tests, I mean, is a company's transfer of IP and the scalable leadership, then international expansion strengthens the value story. So you have something that is valuable that can go cross border, and people will say, yes, we get it, we like it, we want to work with you. And they know that they have this support. They are backed by the whole organization in terms of actually they are going to deliver the promise that they are making to the market. So if it does not, the international expansion becomes operational self-harm because you're going to raise capital, you're going to go to a new country, new legislation, new people, and then probably you're going to be harming your organization in your local country or your local geography because you had to sustain something actually today. Yes, today is not necessary, but in this new venture, it start to get to suck all the resources from the original organization, and then you have to unwind everything to survive. So what is the next hard question I had to ask? How does the board hold all that together without overhiring, overcomplicating, or letting the market story run ahead of the operating reality, right? So this is a very good question to ask when you are thinking about international expansion. And this is where I can help. And what you gain working with me is three things. business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reduction. In terms of business outcomes, I help yourself as a founder, your executive team, or you as a non-executive director, turn reinvention into a disciplined international operating agenda, like the model here. So the company strengthens its edge instead of diluting it as it expands. In terms of differentiator, I build a rotating international advisory board around the exact milestones in front of the company. So bringing the right mix of strategy, operating model, market design, brand transfer, leadership depth, and governance expertise without the overhead of a large consultancy firm or locking the company into a one hire too early, and then you say what is going to do or what is going to happen with this person. And the third thing is reducing your risks. So members of the International Advisory Board can be swapped every 6 months or a year as the expansion evolves, right? Because as it evolves, the talent, expertise, and the network changes. So you need the right experts at the right time in the right place. So the board gets the right expertise for diagnosis, design, delivery, and follow through at the right moment where you are. Excellent. So let's go to practicalities. One action you can take home today, and is doable in 30 minutes or less. Before your next board meeting or your next executive team, or you as a founder with your team, ask for one-page coherent map that shows 4 things. Number 1, what must remain standard across markets, right? Number 2, what can be localized? Because you don't want to localize everything, just whatever is required, like a patent, certifications, permissions, health and safety, localization of legal contracts, etc. All the rest, probably, if you have a very good branding, performance, and strategy, doesn't need to be changed. So don't change everything. Just look exactly what is it need to be localized. Number 3, who owns each decision? You have to have people that owns decisions, so they start to detach the dependency from the headquarter or the founder or the executive team or the non-executive director, with accountability. So they are responsible for those decisions. And number 4, what part of the business still depends too heavily on the founder, right? So let's pause here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow I'll put the whole week together, because internationalization only creates value when transferability, meaning the things that can travel from different geographies, repeatability, meaning that the business is not impacted, sucking resources from the other geographies, resilience, meaning that actually can stand and prosper in time, and your leadership depth can and a coherence of all these things all works as a one system, like the model that we have in front of us right now. So if you are a founder, an executive team, or a non-executive director in a board, and you want an international advisory board to help your organization protect strategic coherence, build leadership depth, and scale the right assets into new markets, let's have a 30-minute call so I can understand where you stand today, what you're looking for, what is your constraints, if you have identified them, so we can put together an international advisory board that can help you to achieve those goals. Thank you very much. And